So this is a new episode of the podcast, PEDRO'S Movie Cavern Podcast. And it's been an interesting week, considering I haven't got a job anymore. But I have, what have I been doing? I've been doing nothing. I've cooked a lot. I've recorded a video, I've recorded 2 videos, I think. I've job searched, and it's been quite depressingly boring. However, I'm so glad that I do not have to work for that company anymore, which makes a big change because I fucking hated it. But I've got some ideas of what I want to do on the channel. One of them is going to involve a lot of editing, because I've never made a video essay before. I've written movie reviews for the last 14 years, but that's written reviews. It's not video essays. And I want to look at certain aspects of genres and certain subgenres of a specific genre. So look at 80s action movies as is part of the action genre. So you've got the stuff like the Rambo movies, Commando and Running Man, and all those type of things, like the big 80s action franchises and stuff, and how that changed when it hit the 90s. I want to look at post-apocalyptic movies, which I really want to do. Post-apocalyptic movies and TV shows. And I want to look at science fiction and other things like that. But sadly, my laptop's not strong enough to actually. Well, I don't know if it is strong enough to actually support video editing. I might be able to do it on the iPad, but I'm not 100% sure whether or not the iPad. Well, getting the files from the laptop to the iPad. I think it would work if I did it through if I uploaded the video files to Google Drive or OneDrive or something like that. But I'm still working out the easiest way to do that. I mean, this is being recorded now on the iPad through, I think it's Dolby Home Video or something. It's Dolby. And it's an interesting app. It actually sounds better through, I think it sounds better through Audacity on my laptop. But this is easier because I can just plug the mic into the iPad and just press record, which is a lot easier. But yeah, so I'm looking at doing some video essay stuff, some in-depth looks. I mean, I've done certain in-depth looks in written format on my websites, which, if you've never been there, they are No, they're not. They're http:// Well, if you just go onto Google and type in cine-apocalypse.blogspot.com, you will go to my main site, which I've run since 2010, but I haven't uploaded any written stuff on there for about 3 years. The other one is bmbeatdown.blogspot.com. BM Beatdown, which stands for Bad Movie Beatdown. Whereas where I post most of my stuff now that I write, because I'm not writing specific reviews, I'm writing more essays and stuff. I'll put the links in the video description on YouTube, and I'll try and put them on Spotify as well. So go and check it out. I love writing. I would love to do it for a living, but I don't have any form of journalistic background or anything. Sorry, my phone just pinged. Pierce Brosnan has opened up about the chances of a third Mamma Mia. Not interested. So yeah, I would love to get paid to just write movie stuff. I would love it, but I don't have a journalistic background. I did it off my own back. Spent years honing my craft and finding a way of writing that I like, because I used to have, when I was writing reviews, I would have a specific format in which I did, and sticking to that format really started to bore me. So I changed it to like a free form, sort of off the top of my head way of writing, and I'm enjoying doing that a lot more because I'm not tied down to like deadlines for specific releases, because I used to get screener copies. I used to get a lot of screeners from 101 Films and Cine Asia, because the main focus on Cinepocalypse, the website, was like genre movies, like martial arts movies, action movies, genre sci-fi, horror, those type of things, and not necessarily like your mainstream movies. I mean, there was a lot of mainstream stuff on there, so I looked at like the Fast and the Furious movies and stuff like that, but it was primarily based on like smaller, almost unknown or newer like DTV type of stuff that was coming out. Direct-to-TV is DTV, but they don't call it direct-to-TV anymore because they go straight to DVD or straight to physical or straight to streaming. But I did reviews of a lot of Cine Asia releases over the years. Most of the Jackie Chan stuff that just vanished into thin air over the years. And then I started doing reviews for 101 Films, and I did reviews for... What did I do reviews for? I did reviews for Changeling with George C. Scott. That was an interesting watch. That was the first time I'd ever seen that film, and I'm not going to lie, it creeped me out, and I'm not easily creeped out. So The Shining is probably the scariest film I've ever seen, and I saw that for the first time when I was a child. It doesn't really scare me now. I think The Simpsons kind of ruined that with the Halloween special spoof with The Shining. But The Changeling, yeah, that creeped me out. There was something about that movie that actually creeped me the fuck out. I don't know what it was. There was that and a film called The Entity with, I want to say no, it's not Ron Silver, is it? Who was in The Entity? I think it was Barbara Hershey. I'm just going to look it up a sec. Yeah, so when I was with my ex, we went to we booked like a, what they call them? Like a cottage getaway thing, and we watched The Entity in the middle of nowhere in Gloucester. Not Gloucester. Yeah, Gloucester. And we watched it late night, and we both got really creeped out. Oh, it is Ron Silver. So it's Barbara Hershey and Ron Silver. A woman is tormented by an invisible being. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was creepy as hell, and I think she enjoyed it as well. She found it really creepy. It stars Barbara Hershey and Ron Silver. And it was directed by Sidney J. Furie. It's got 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb as an IMDb score, but it only has a 35 Metascore, which is a red one. So apparently it wasn't very popular when it came out. So Miami Herald, Bill Cosford, gave the film a bad review on the 9th of February 1983. So screw that guy. So like there was The Changeling, and then I did a lot of like the lower end Jean-Claude Van Damme films for 101. So stuff like AWOL when they were releasing that, and there was another one as well I did, which I think might have been Black Eagle. I'm not sure. I think it was Black Eagle. And my favourite one that I did for them was Toy Soldiers, which is the action film starring Sean Astin from The Goonies and Lord of the Rings, Will Wheaton, Andrew Divoff, and Lou Gossett Jr., which is a great little action film. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend checking out Toy Soldiers, because it's a lot of fun. So they sent me a screener copy of that to review. I reviewed it because it was a film I'd seen before. I owned the DVD, but they sent me a Blu-ray copy so when you review films in the UK, it's different in America, because apparently they send you sell-through copies in the US for review. In the UK, you get a silver disc with no artwork on it, just the title of the film and the product and distribution company. So it would be a silver disc with the words Toy Soldiers on, and then at the bottom it would say 101 Films, and it would probably have like some like batch number codes or something. In the States, what they'll do is they'll send you, from my experience of knowing people who review movies in the States, they will send you sell-through copies. So it'll be like the full artwork, slipcase. I know Shout Factory, for a lot of people, would send them the sell-through copies. Or they might have been, they were either sell-through or they were like specialist screener copies. I'm not really sure how it works in the States, but in the UK you get just a regular disc in a plastic or paper sleeve, and then you get like a little bit of information about the film, like some like what they call it. You get a synopsis, and you get the special features and some of the technical aspects of it. And you then watch the film, you review the film, and you post it by a specific date. And that's what I used to do on Cinepocalypse. So I did Toy Soldiers, and I gave it a favourable review. I thought the Blu-ray looked great. I think it's a great movie anyway, so I really enjoyed it. And I gave it a good, a good score. I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. And like 2 weeks later, in the post comes a sell-through copy of Toy Soldiers from 101 Films, which was great. I wasn't expecting it at all. So they sent me a free gift of the actual, like, full release Blu-ray of Toy Soldiers, and it's still in my collection now. So that's a film I really enjoy, and but I don't miss doing that at all. I don't miss hitting deadlines for film reviews. It's a bit different when you're getting paid to do it, but when you're just doing it off your own back, like sometimes I would put them off until like the last moment and be like, oh, fuck, I gotta watch this movie, even though I like might not have been that excited by watching it. I think there was a few from Cine Asia that I got that they would just send them, like, there was a mailing list for certain companies, like 101 Films would be a mailing list, and I tried to get Arrow releases, but they weren't doing them at the time. I don't know if they are now. I'm not sure if they do screener copies or anything, but yeah, so you'd have a mailing list, and you'd contact like an agent, like a distribution agent, or a marketing agent, and you'd say, hey, I have this website, it has this many readers, blah, 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 blah. I would like to review this specific upcoming film. Is there any chance that I can be put on the mailing list and get a screener copy to review for whichever company it is that I'm reviewing it for? And 9 times out of 10, they would send you a copy, which is really cool. I got some really cool shit through doing screeners. But Cine Asia, they just sent you the movies. You would be put on a mailing list and they'd auto send you the movie. And I like the idea of contacting marketing teams from these labels to actually, because it's more of a conversation you get with them. So I had a couple of back and forths with some marketing agents for these boutique labels, or these like DVD release labels. But Cine Asia, because I think they are owned by Stars Entertainment, or I think it's Fortune Star now. They were the ones who I think also bought Anchor Bay, but I'm not 100% on that. But they would just whack your name on a mailing list, and anytime a new film came out, you'd get sent a copy. So I got things like Shaolin with Chow Yun-fat, and Wuchi the Demon something. What else was there? Young Bruce Lee was another one that I got. And I think I had 1 or 2 of the Ip Man movies. But yeah, I mean, I love martial arts movies, but I like more like modern martial arts movies, like stuff that's set in modern day. I'm not really into the period mystical side of martial arts movies or the like Shaw Brothers type stuff. So watching like period martial arts movies isn't really a thing for me. Now, if it's something like, I don't know, Flashpoint. Is it Flashpoint? Yeah, Flashpoint with Donnie Yen. which is it's set in modern day. It's a cop movie, but it's a film which has some insanely good martial arts stunt work in it. Donnie Yen spent months learning Brazilian jiu-jitsu to incorporate into the fight scenes. I think it's with Lewis. Who? I can't remember. I'm going to double check this up on the IMDb Bibbles as well. Is it Flashpoint? Oh, Lewis Koo, sorry. Yeah, so Lewis Koo, 2007. Shit, that was a long time ago. I didn't get that as a screener. That was just one that I rented from the video store when it came out. But I didn't even do a review of that. It's got a 38 Metascore on IMDb, which is shit. But the film itself is pretty brutal in its fight choreography. What else did I get? I can't remember now. I can't find the rest of the ones that I got. But yeah, so Cine Asia would just do that. They'd whack your name on a mailing list and just send you anything. One of the best ones I got was Corman's World, which is a documentary about Roger Corman, and I'm a massive Roger Corman fan. I love Roger Corman movies. I have a ton of them from the 1950s all the way up to the 1980s, and I would love to get Frankenstein Unbound, but I don't think it's had a release in the UK. It may have had a DVD, but I think the DVD is long out of print. But yeah, I love a Roger Corman movie. One of the best Roger Corman movies is a film called The Intruder, which starred William Shatner as a white man who causes racial tensions in the Deep South. And Corman, it was a film that Corman really wanted to make, but it was a film that he couldn't get funding for because of the subject matter at the time. Obviously we've got the segregation and stuff in the South with blacks and whites, and it was a film about a man that was going to an area in the South that is predominantly a black community, and causing racial tensions and stirring up racial hate between the whites and the blacks. Is a very good film. It's a very good film. William Shatner does a really good performance in that film, and it's definitely worth checking out. I think it's from 1964. Again, I'm going to check this up on the IMDb Bibbles because I'm not sure of the year. I know it's the early 60s or the mid 60s. Let me just check that. I think in America it's called The Stranger. It's 124 minutes long. No, it's not. It's an hour and 24 minutes long. 1962, there we go. A charismatic social reformer rallies the white populace of a southern town to oppose school integration, but he soon finds himself in a situation that he cannot control. It's got 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb, and it doesn't have a Metacritic score, but it's got William Shatner and Frank Maxwell in it. It was, and Robert Earnhardt, Leo Gordon, Charles Beaumont, anyone else in it? Jean Cooper, June Foray, she's in it. She's, I think she was a voice actress. June Foray, yeah, it's a legendary voice actress, June Foray. Yeah, so it's directed by Roger Corman, but it's written by Charles Beaumont, who played Mr. Patton in the film. He was a writer for The Twilight Zone, and he wrote this really good British witchcraft movie from 1962 as well, same year as The Intruder came out, called Night of the Eagle, which is a very, very cool film. If you can check that, if you can find that, I think someone has just released that on Blu-ray. It might be Indicator. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to double check that. But yeah, Night of the Eagle is fantastic. What else did he write? Charles Beaumont, writer. Role. He was predominantly a writer. I think he was, The Intruder was the only film that he was in. He wrote the film Brain Dead, not the Peter Jackson film, but the the Roger Corman produced movie from 1990, directed by Adam Simon, starring Bill Pullman and Bill Paxton. And, Bud Cort was in that. Did not realise. But he also wrote Mr. Moses in 1965 and The Mask of the Red Death, another film for Roger Corman that was in Roger Corman's Poe series of films, which was The Mask of the Red Death, Pit and the Pendulum. I've got the Six Gothic Tales over there, but I can't remember what else is on there or in there. Fall of the House of Usher, I think, was the other one. He wrote The Seven Faces of Dr. Lau, The Haunted Palace, that's another Roger Corman one. The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, Night of the Eagle, Premature Burial, and I think that was really it. He was a prolific TV writer in the 1950s and 60s. Wrote episodes of Wanted Dead or Alive, One Step Beyond, The Twilight Zone again, like I said. Richard Diamond, Private Detective. What is Richard Diamond, Private Detective? It was a TV show around 78 episodes between 1956 and 1960, starring David Jansen and Russ Conway. What's a Russ Conway? I don't know, about 7 minutes a pound. Regis Toomey, Richard Devon, Barbara Bain. He also wrote for Naked City, which again was another so I guess you can think of it as like a NYPD Blue of the 1950s. That starred Harry Belafonte and Nancy Malone. What else have we got? Yeah, so like prolific TV writer in the 1950s and 60s, and then went on to screenplays and stuff, but then followed that up by writing episodes of Alfred Hitchcock, The Twilight Zone, Suspense, Journey to the Unknown. He wrote he wrote 2 or 1. He wrote Miss Gentibel, based on a short story. Journey into Darkness, and then wrote... Did he write? He wrote 2 episodes. I think they were adaptations of the 1985 version of The Twilight Zone. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, if you can check out Night of the Eagle, I'd highly recommend checking that out. But, yeah, The Intruder's amazing. Absolutely cracking movie with William Shatner. But like I said about Roger Corman, there's something about Roger Corman movies I absolutely adore. And maybe it's the fact that they were shot on very, very low budgets, in very, very quick time periods. Well, space of time. Like, one really, really cool film from Corman is a film called The Day the World Ended, which is a post-apocalyptic sort of post-nuclear survival movie set in a house in a valley that is kind of shielded from the nuclear fallout. And it's about a group of people who find refuge in this house that this survivalist guy and his daughter have kind of stockpiled and sort of locked down. And these guys, well, these survivors, find refuge in this house. But they start getting picked off one by one by this horrible nuclear or atomic mutant creature thing. It's all very, very silly, but it's all very like super low budget, but it's a lot of fun. Like a lot of fun. It's one of my favourite Roger Corman movies, and I'd love to see that film get remade, like with more modern sort of prosthetics and like practical effects and stuff, but make it less, what's the word for it? Less 1950s nuclear propaganda and Cold War Red Scare type of shit. But yeah, I think that would make a really cool movie as a remake, as a modern remake. I even tried to write one once. I tried to write a remake of it, and I got about 25 pages in and realized that I'm not really that good as a screenwriter. I've written a few film scripts, but yeah, trying to write a remake of The Day the World Ended by just using the, 87 minutes? Probably something like that. Day the World Ended. Let me find it. The Day the World Ended. There we go. It's from 1955. I'll read you the synopsis. It says, in a post-apocalyptic world, after an atomic war, 7 desperate people find themselves in a protected valley in the home of a survivalist and his beautiful daughter. It runs a total of 1 hour and 19 minutes, 79 minutes otherwise, and it stars Richard Denning, Laurie Nelson, Adele Jurgens, Mike Connors, Paul Birch, Raymond Hatton, Paul Dubov, Jonathan Hayes, Paul Blaisdell, and Roger Corman as Nelson, Louise's fiance, and Chet Huntley. So it was directed by Roger Corman and written by Lou Russoff. Lou Russoff wrote and produced a lot of those sort of low-end 1960s, like low budget, in I suppose you could say independent movies. Like he did the beach movies with what's his name? Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello. No way. Apparently, according to Back to the Beach. Oh, it's from 1987. Yeah, so that would be right. I was going to say it's got Lori Loughlin in it. I was like, she would have been barely alive during the 60s. A film called The Hell Riders from 1969, which is a US Army demolition squad on a mission to destroy records in an evacuated headquarters as German forces advance in Italy. Remake of the 1958 film Suicide Battalion, starring John Agar and Richard Webb, directed by Larry Buchanan. The interesting thing about The Day the World Ended is that it was made in 1955, and in 1969 there was a remake of that film called In the Year 2899, or 2889, sorry, which is fucking awful. It's got Paul Peterson in it. It's directed by Larry Buchanan and is written by Harold Hoffman. Lou Russoff was uncredited story, but the film Harold Hoffman wrote in the year 2889, but he's quite a prolific writer, actually. I say prolific, he's not that prolific, but that's probably the lowest scored movie, I think, in his filmography. He wrote The Trial of Lee Harvey Oswald, The Black Cat, and Free Underage, or whatever that is, and a film called Sex and the Animals from 1969, a nature documentary. But In the Year 2889 is so god-awfully bad. It's made on a lower budget than The Day the World Ended, which is surprising because that had a very, very low budget. In the year 2889, again, like, I'll read you the synopsis. The synopsis is, in a post-nuclear Earth, survivors are stuck in a valley and have to protect themselves from mutant human beings and each other in some cases. Like, I have watched an awful lot of high-end, high-budget, post-apocalyptic movies and some of the shittiest dregs of post-apocalyptic cinema from, like, In the Year 2889 and things like The Aftermath from like 1982, I think it's from. The starred Sid Haig. It's really bad, shot on a budget of like 40p. But this is the stuff that I really love about Roger Corman movies, is that they're just really, really low end, like entertaining movies, and you can see there's a passion for filmmaking in them. If you look at like Corman's 60s output, especially the Edgar Allan Poe stuff, if you look at that stuff, you'll see that like his sort of, I don't know, production design and budget is a lot higher than what you would expect from a Corman movie from that era. Like when you got to the 80s, you had things like Battle Beyond the Stars and Galaxy of Terror, those type of movies, and even what was the other one? The Terror Within 1 and 2. If you look at those, they have a marginally higher budget. They look better. Specifically, Battle Beyond the Stars just looks really good. It looks like 1978 or 1979 Battlestar Galactica. It has that sort of production budget behind it, but it has a higher name cast. Like you've got Richard Thomas in it and George Peppard. I think Sybil Danning was in it as well. But yeah, like that film looks really good. And it's got production design by James Cameron as well. So like Jimmy C was a production designer on that movie. That movie, incidentally, was directed by Jimmy Murakami, who also directed something else. I can't remember what it is, and it's doing my head in. So if I go to Battle Beyond the Stars, so it was directed by Jimmy T. Murakami and Roger Corman, and he directed he directed When the Wind Blows, which is a absolutely devastatingly beautiful animated movie about nuclear holocaust nuclear strike on the UK. It's an animated film. It's based on a book by what's his name? Raymond Briggs, the guy who did the Snowman, and it's a very sad movie. It's got 7.7 on IMDb at the moment, but it's got the voices of Peggy Ashcroft and John Mills in it. But the interesting thing about this guy, Jimmy T. Murakami, is that he died. What year did he die? He passed away in 2014 at the age of 80, and it's primarily an animator, I guess, but his filmography is quite interesting. He directed a film called A Christmas Carol, which I'm guessing is a adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Oh shit! Sorry, I just realised that Jimmy T. Murakami directed the animated version of A Christmas Carol, the one that went to theatres, starring Simon Callow, Kate Winslet, Nicolas Cage, Jane Horrocks, Michael Gambon, Rhys Ifans, Juliet Stevenson, and Robert Llewellyn. Robert Llewellyn also co-wrote the screenplay for the film. But I did not know he directed that. But like I said, he was more of an animation director. Then he directed a film called Oi, Get Off Our Train, which is only a short film, 29 minutes. Which it's got Phil Daniels and stuff. A Christmas Story Keepers from 1998. That was another animated one. He does a lot of these Story Keeper things, which I think are religion-based ones. But in 1986, he directed When the Wind Blows. He was a supervising director on The Snowman, which I didn't know. I'm literally learning all this shit right now. And he was the director of Heavy Metal, along with Gerald Potterton, John Bruno, John Hallis, Julian Harris, Barry Nelson, Paul Sabala, Pino van Lamsweerd, whatever that is, and Harold Whittaker. Oh, and Jack Stokes. So there's quite a lot of people involved in that movie. But yeah, I did not know he directed Heavy Metal until I just checked that then. But yeah, it's interesting to see the films that he did direct. Humanoids from the Deep from 1980, which is quite a well-known cult Roger Corman movie, which is really interesting. That got remade. When did that get remade? Because it got remade in the 90s. I think Humanoids from the Deep, 1996. But I think that film starred a very young Mila Kunis. But Robert Carradine, or Carradine, Emma Samms, Justin Walker. Was it? Am I going mad? Shit, Walton Goggins was in that. I'm going to check the trivia a sec. I think a very, very young Mila Kunis was in that. Unless there was another version of Humanoids from the Deep that came out that starred Mila Kunis. Let me type, I'm going to Mila Kunis. Because it would have been pre-19, well, that 70s show, because she was about 12, I think. Fuck, what year was that? It must have been. She was in Krippendorf's tribe. Oh no, it must have been Piranha. A TV version of Piranha. With Alexandra Paul and William Catt. You learn something new every day. I could have sworn it was Humanoids from the Deep, but no, I knew it was a Roger Corman film that she had starred in a remake of. But yeah, like, I absolutely adore Roger Corman films, and like I said, if you look at like his 1960s stuff compared to his 1980 stuff, specifically, like, the budgets are relatively higher than the earlier stuff. Even like Death Race 2000, if you look at that compared to the one that came after it, which was wasn't Death Race, Death Sport with David Carradine, which is a fucking awful movie. You'll see that, like, I suppose like the budget for Death Race is a little bit lower than what you'd expect. Well, what we saw in the gothic horror Poe movies with Vincent Price. I just love Roger Corman for movies. So yeah, that Corman's World. Let me get back onto that. Corman's World was it was a documentary about Roger Corman that came out. That was a big thing that everyone, if you're a cult movie fan, you'll know that, like, a documentary being made about the greatest cult movie producer, director, writer, whatever, of all time is coming out. You definitely need to see that because it's going to be ridiculously interesting. That came out, so I got a review copy of that and I reviewed it, and that it was at that point I decided that I didn't want to do it anymore because it's really difficult to review a documentary as opposed to a fictional movie. So with a fictional film, especially when there's, like, say for instance, if I was going to review Dawn of the Dead. I know I use Dawn of the Dead because it's one of my favourite films, and I have reviewed Dawn of the Dead. But say I was going to review Dawn of the Dead, I would look at where Dawn of the Dead came from. So Dawn of the Dead came from Night of the Living Dead. It's a sort of sequel to that film. But then also you have to look at the themes that are in Dawn of the Dead. So it's all about capitalism and human behaviour when it comes to shopping and stuff like that. But then also you've got survivalists, and then you've got bandits and stuff like that. I think George Romero said he went to Italy to write Dawn of the Dead, and I think he said he wrote it in like 2 weeks, which is fucking mad. So then when I'm writing a review for that, I will look at where it came from. Then I would look at the plot. Then I would look at the performances and the cast. Then I would maybe look at the cinematography. In that case, it was Michael Gornick. And then I would look at the score. So the score for Dawn of the Dead was a mixture of library tracks that were, I guess you could say, royalty free, that could be used in the movie, and then music that was specifically made for the film with Goblin, the Italian sort of, I guess, synth rock prog thing band. I think Dario Argento was part of them. at one point, which is why because he was a producer on Dawn of the Dead, so Argento was in Goblin and was very good friends, because I think Goblin did the music for... No, Goblin did. They did the music for Suspiria. So, so that's why the music for Dawn of the Dead. And then I would look at... what else would I do then? No, because then I would come to the end and I would give a final verdict, and then I would give it a score. So the final verdict would be like, oh, it's a really cool film. I really enjoyed it. I like the themes that run through the movie. I like the performances. I like the music and the cinematography. I would give it this, and this, or I would give it like 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. In my case, I gave it a 10 out of 5 because it's my favorite horror film. But with a documentary, you can't really use that sort of format. So when I wrote the review for Corman's World, I really didn't enjoy breaking down the documentary. So it was that point I was just like, you know what? It's been a wild ride reviewing these movies for distribution companies and these boutique labels, but I just don't enjoy it anymore. I want to write on my own terms. So that's why I decided to change from writing reviews for people to writing more, I guess, writing film essays, breakdowns, and personal looks at certain things. Like the last thing I wrote for Bad Movie Beatdown, which I'm going to change the name, because the whole point of that website was that I was going to just write about shit movies. But so far I've written about Noah, the really massively underrated Darren Aronofsky film with Russell Crowe, which in my eyes it is a post-apocalyptic movie set before modern history. I mean, you need to watch it because there's really interesting things in there. In fact, let me bring it up a sec, because it has a specific title. It has a specific title that I put for it. Excuse me. So the title that I wrote for it is Noah, a post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy as told in the Bible. Excuse me. Choked on my vape then. I wrote a thing called Grease 2, Work of Art of Work of Arse. And the last thing I wrote was Comfy Comedy and the Enduring Legacy of Friends, the TV show. I have a whole thing that I am currently in the middle of writing about physical media. I just need to finish that off, and that'll be posted soon. Thanks for listening to me ramble. This has been the most interesting episode of Pedro's Movie Cavern podcast. I had no plans whatsoever for this episode. I was just going to sit here and record something, and I have gone deep. I've done a bit of a deep dive into Roger Corman's filmography, which is bizarre because I never planned on doing that. I just fucking love Roger Corman. So yeah, it's interesting talking about my years of writing film reviews and obviously looking at Roger Corman's filmography. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to know more, or you want to hear more, or want to see more, you can just check out my videos on YouTube. I do a lot of stuff about movies. There's a lot of movie recommendations. There's a lot of looks at certain films as well. So some films you might not be familiar with. Like I just uploaded a video about underrated action movies, where I looked at, I think it was 5 different films that sort of kind of went under the radar and aren't really talked about that often, which are actually really great movies, specifically Nighthawks starring Sylvester Stallone. Fucking great movie that is. You check out my websites. I'll put I'm going to link them in my bio on the main channel page on YouTube, and I'll link them on the in the description of this as well, on both YouTube and what's the other one? YouTube and Spotify, and maybe I think I'm on Apple Music as well. I'm not 100% sure. I need to check that. But as usual, I am Pete, aka Pedro, and this is my Movie Cavern, and this is my Movie Cavern podcast, and you have been listening to me for the last 45 minutes. So I'm going to sign off and say cheers, everyone. You can't see this, but I'm giving you a salute, throwing you the peace sign, and I'm telling you I am out. Cheers, everyone. Have a good one. See you next time.